All right.
So what I wanted to do with this is, I feel like a lot of people have an idea of what the gym is like and what classes are like at an MMA gym or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, and I kind of wanted to sit down with quite a few of our members and then just kind of get around their backstory and why they started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we're joined today by Aaron. You've been here for probably like a year and a half now?
2 years. 2 years next month.
Man. And so you were a multiple-time national champion wrestler, and then you moved into the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu naturally.
Yeah.
And then MMA.
It was an easy transition at 42.
Exactly. So what in the world got you into this stuff?
I probably had
By
the
way,
same.
that complete lie, right?
All
those were lies. Okay, just so you guys are fully aware.
No, I'm a finance geek by trade. So yeah. No, like I probably had the same interests as anybody else's, like combat sports. Mm-hmm. So I've been meaning to do something like this for a while. And honestly, I hate the gym. I can't, like I get on a treadmill, I get bored out of my mind. And I came to you almost 7 years ago at your old gym. And I was 35 at the time. And I had just hurt my back and wanted to get into jiu-jitsu. And never a good time. My wife was pregnant. I was like, oh, I'll do it after my first kid and then after my second kid.
Man, that's a whole new world that I was unaware of. Like after, I'll just do this, and parenting's easy. That's the hardest dang thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and there's never a perfect time. And so, honestly, like when I started, I read a book by Josh Watkins, it's Art of Learning, and I like to learn things. And what you realize is jiu-jitsu is a lot like finance. Right when you think you know something about it, it's like a rabbit hole. And I feel like this is something that I could learn for 10 years and still not know anything about. Yeah. And so that kind of intrigued me about it. And then once I started doing it, I just fell in love with it. And honestly, like you push yourself harder in a place like this than I ever would in a gym. Like somebody's trying to choke you out. You work a little harder than you normally would.
Right. It's funny, Josh Waitzkin, for those of you that don't know, in the movie Search for Bobby Fischer, that's the main character in that movie, and I've had the pleasure of interacting with him just slightly, just because he's such a learning nerd like myself. Yeah. And so that was really cool to see him, because he was both in, if I remember from that book as well, did Tai Chi and was like a world champion in Tai Chi, was a very accomplished
push hands and
was a super accomplished chess guy for a while, and then he's a black belt under one of the best jiu-jitsu guys ever, Marcelo Garcia, who's also like one of the nicest guys ever. Yeah. And by the way, we are both sweating profusely just because we literally got done training.
I just got smashed for 5 minutes.
So I've got a competition coming up, and he's one of my good training partners. So he happens to fit the bill of a guy that's roughly the same size. Except for, I guess, maybe my opponent's got like another 40 pounds on you. Probably, I'm thinking.
And maybe about 10 years of studying.
But yeah, he's exactly right. I've been doing this for 20 years, and now there's new stuff coming out, especially with YouTube and everything, where it seems like, 20 years ago, or I should say, let's say 8-9 years ago, from technology-wise, even as that stuff was starting to come out, it was so terrible. It was some guy that was showing something in the grass, and like, oh, here's how you do this, and it was usually completely wrong. So instructors would not have you look at any of that stuff. And now, I mean, you can get the best guys in the world showing stuff on there, and it's a lot of their A-game stuff, and it amazes me that they're willing to open up that much. Yeah. But then it makes everybody so much better, and the game has evolved so much, and so
it's interesting. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So what was it mostly the kid? Because I find that as a big thing in here, that I'll get a lot of inquiries about class. Yeah. And they say it like a rule of 7, where I'll get 7 inquiries about class, and then out of those 7 people, one person will actually show up, and out of those 7 people that actually show up, one person actually stays, and then it gets to a really small number afterwards.
I can see that.
And so I personally think that a lot of people are maybe intimidated by the idea of coming in and doing this stuff, and especially coming not from a collegiate wrestling background or anything like that. So
I think it was probably intimidating at the start.
Sure.
Just because it's something new. But what I realized, back to the question about the kid, is there's no perfect time. Mm-hmm. Really, that's what you come to realize about everything. is you can try to find a perfect time all day long, and whether it's start a business or start anything new, there's never a perfect time. So I just said, okay, if you're going to do it, you got to do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was definitely intimidating the first couple times, because it's kind of like you get in here and you just got to go with the flow. But everybody's, you have all age spectrums, which is awesome. Everybody's super respectful, super nice. I mean, it's a good camaraderie, a group of people, and some of them are, well advanced. And the advanced guys, what I found was really cool is they're more than willing to help.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best thing about it is you come in and, the guys that are better than you, yeah, they'll tap you out, but then they'll tell you, okay, this is what maybe this will help you or something like that. And so it's intimidating at first, but it goes away quick, and so I fell in love with the place.
And it's one of those that, like, I think it's weird where that starts to work out that way, where I think a lot of the advanced guys like to show and like to help out, the newer folks so they can get a little bit better. And because, it's kind of like playing, a lot of times I'll tell the kids too, for the kids class, like the older kids, I want them to help the younger kids, because it's like a video game. I mean, if you play on that first level of the video game every single time and do it over and over and over, you get super bored with it. So.
Yeah, and it's, to me, it's a odd thing considering you're in a competitive environment, right? And so typically under most competitive environments, it's not like that. I mean, very rarely anyway. Right. And so to me, it was eye-opening. It was nice.
So one of the other big roadblocks that I run into a lot, I think, is students get into the class, they try it and love it for like a month, and then that same exact thing that you're talking about that you love, everybody else is like, I guess, kind of taken back by it, that they'll come in and there's just so much information and they don't feel like they're getting any better.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much information, and unfortunately you're going with a lot of times people that maybe aren't any newer than you, and so you're, be it a month or 6 months later, you're usually still getting beat by stuff, and then so you expect to see some results, and you're not seeing those. I feel like it's hard sometimes, just because, like, if you do it in lifting, you can see, okay, that very next week I was able to lift 5 more pounds, and it was, quantifiable in the results, where this maybe necessarily isn't. So.
The way I agree with it, I agree with 100% of that, because really when I started the same exact thing, it's like watching a child grow, right? Mm-hmm. And if you haven't seen, you see your buddy's kid, you're like, wow, so much bigger. But if you are seeing them every day, you don't really notice it as much.
Right.
Same exact thing in here. Like, I didn't honestly felt the exact same thing, but it's so much information, you're absorbing it at such a rapid pace, like you don't notice how much better you're getting. And then if I look back on myself 2 years ago, I would destroy that guy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that it's you retain so much of what you don't think you're retaining. You know, but yeah, it's a lot. It can be overwhelming, and you kind of hit these plateaus, and I think I've hit a couple of them. But it's more of a mental thing to me. It's like, okay, I got to stop thinking about it in a competitive way and start thinking about it in a learning environment. Like, I'm here to learn. And so you kind of just try to separate those two. It's hard sometimes for me, but.
Yeah, because you can definitely take your A game and implement your A game every single time, and usually it'll go without a hitch most of the time. And but like you said, you're not really evolving. You're not getting yourself better.
And that's one of my hardest things so far is I'll go back to the same thing that works, and I'll keep doing that. And it's my default mechanism, but then you stop learning, right? Yeah. And then I stop improving, and so that's been probably the hardest thing for me. Is that transition?
Having to put yourself into positions where you're most likely probably not going to be very good at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a process.
Yeah. We switched over a couple years ago to the learning system, and even then, you've been here for a while, where I felt like we had a couple different iterations of that. Your thoughts on the way that it's going now? Because I feel like this is probably the best version that I've been able to put out. And it's funny because initially I thought, we had a website where you could go and the problem was just getting the students to actually look at that information beforehand. Yeah. And so now I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible, and provide that on a Google document and go from there. So.
I love it. I honestly think, and for me, it works really well because I like to learn. And so I can take what you provide and go out and do my own kind of research on the back end, and so it works really well to me, and I'm sure everybody's different in how they learn, but from my position, it's great because I can go in and take what we learn in class and then get some input from you on what I'm missing or what I'm doing wrong, and then go back and, there's times I get out of here and I talk to you and I'll go back and it'll drive me bonkers for like a weekend. I'm like, how did you do that? And so I'll like sit there and try to figure it out and study but I love it because it gives me avenues to go out and expand outside of class, right? Instead of just having that focus in class. So I love it. I love the way it's set up.
Yeah, that's and that was my whole goal is I want to maximize the time of you actually trying stuff in class rather than, because for those of you that haven't been into a class, the whole goal is that you would look at it on a Google document. So it's almost like a little PDF or a website where you'll go and look at the videos for the instruction beforehand, and everybody's on a different level depending on how long they've been coming in. And then in that document, there's a little GIF, like a little 10 to 15 second video that'll show you the technique as well, so you can reference it in class. So everybody has their phones out and everybody's doing something different depending on how long they've been coming. So for me, that was always the craziest thing because as a coach before, I would go and I would teach maybe 3 or 4 techniques.
Yeah.
And it would be, I would either have, and most of the time, and if you ask, if coaches were honest about this, jiu-jitsu coaches were honest about this, most of the time you're sitting in your car, maybe you've done your due diligence and you've figured out a curriculum for the week. Okay, I want to work half guard, but most of the time, coaches are coming in and saying, okay, they're driving in their car to the class and they're like, oh, I'm going to show a half guard series here.
Yeah.
Like if they're being honest with it, because I used to be that way, and it used to eat me up where I'm like, man, this is not me offering the best that I can do. And then on top of that, like every day I'm sitting here having to think of like, oh God, what am I going to do today? And so it was nice when I built out a curriculum that it just kind of kept evolving and moving into that. So it's really weird to me now to do it any other way.
Yeah.
But it's also funny to see other people come in from other gyms that are just completely lost by that and struggle with that. I think that's probably my hardest clientele, that are people that have moved from another gym coming into here and are used to that like kind of monkey see, monkey do kind of style.
I love the self-paced study, right? For me, because if the idea of coming in and drilling the same thing over and over again in one position that somebody might be really, really good at and somebody might be starting out, you're going to miss, I think.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to go down my avenue and do what I'm, go down my curriculum and go down my path at my pace, it works awesome.
Cool.
But the beauty of it is you get a lot of variety because other people are doing different stuff. And so then sometimes you meet up with guys that are doing the same thing, and it's just I like it. For me, it works really well.
So what were, kind of finishing up here, what were some of the differences that you felt like you were or the expectations that you had initially coming into the gym to what was actually the truth? Was there anything big that was like, oh, okay, this is completely different than I thought?
No, not really.
Okay.
My body had to go through a little bit of a pain adjustment at 42 years old because some of these guys are a little bit younger than I am. But other than that, no, the camaraderie obviously was a lot different than I thought it'd be because I thought there'd be more of a competitive environment to it, and everybody's really nice in here. But no, the expectations were about the same. I didn't have any. No, there wasn't really anything that I was like, oh, I felt like this would be way different than what it was.
Good. Speaking about the camaraderie thing, that was one of the things that I've hammered on pretty hard. Is I like having, most bigger gyms have a pro class and then a, everybody else kind of class.
Yeah.
And so for me, I always felt like that was really weird because those folks that are coming up, the fighters, whether it be jiu-jitsu guys, MMA guys, whatever, they need to have that camaraderie with, the other folks in the gym, even if they're not doing anything to me, because those are the people that buy your t-shirts, that buy your tickets to your events, things like that. And that's always weird to me that most gyms separate those two people. And I understand that like their goals are very different, but I think it's easy to say, okay, this person, as a pro, athlete or whatever, this person's clearly not doing anything for a pro aspect, so here's what I'm going to try to do with this person, and okay, this person's a pro athlete, so I'm going to go differently with them. And I think that's been a goal of mine too. Is like those two groups should be the same. It shouldn't be too different. But maybe
No, I agree. I think the way it's set up is great because honestly, you get all levels. So I get people that are where I used to be that are just starting out and that have a lot to learn, and then you get people that are way better than you that teach you, and you get I sit in this place where I play a lot of defense against guys that are better than me, and I try to play some offense against guys that are worse than me, and so you get both aspects of it, and that's what I think everybody in jiu-jitsu ends up doing, and that's what I've kind of come to learn, I guess, is you play a lot of defense against the guys that are better than you, and try to play the offense against the guys that are at a lower rank than you, and you get to learn across the board that way. Because I think if you went with guys that are always better than you or worse than you, you're not going to get a full spectrum of jiu-jitsu, I guess. But
yeah, for me, it's always like three styles or three systems. It should, exactly two of them you talked about. Okay, so you have your guys that are way better than you, and you're working on defensive stuff and make sure you don't put yourself in bad positions, and then the newer folks where you can try some of your newer game stuff that you're just learning. And then your middle ground where you feel like you're pretty equal with that person, and then you can use your A game on those folks to see where you're at competitively. I think
I'm still waiting for that A game.
But yeah, overall thoughts on somebody that's looking at trying the gym, but is just apprehensive to do so.
I mean, here's the thing: I'm a 42-year-old finance geek, and this is the first time I've ever went into like combat sports, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. I mean, honestly, it's fantastic. I think everybody should give it a try because, one, putting your mind and your body together when you work out is a whole different level of activity than you would if you're running on a treadmill, to me. And so you learn something along the way, and I mean, so far there's not been I don't think there's a ending of knowledge for a very long time in this game. So yeah, I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm 20 years in, and I've not gotten even close to there yet, especially with all the new stuff coming out. It's crazy to me.
It's just like a rabbit hole. I love it.
All right, well, thank you very much for sitting down with us, and
of course.
Hope to grapple with you many more times for the next few years.
Yeah, sounds good.